We got him. We got him. We got the orange man. He's going down this time. This is it. After years of investigations, we finally got him. Donald Trump. He's going to be impeached because Alyssa Milano said throw in the towel if Trump can't be impeached for pushing hydroxychloroquine for personal gain. That's right, everybody. Donald Trump owns the company that makes the... Wait, what was that? He doesn't actually own the company that makes hydroxychloroquine? Well, certainly he's got a bunch of stock in the company. He's a principal share. He doesn't even own any stock in the company? I thought they said he had to find... Oh, he's got a mutual fund. Oh, Donald Trump invested in a mutual fund? And the mutual fund owns a tiny fraction of a company that at one point was a principal producer of hydroxychloroquine. So we don't got him. But Alyssa Milano still wants to have the president impeached. I'm just so tired of everything. You know, I'm sitting here thinking like, what's the segment for 1 p.m.? Let's talk about news. You know, Bernie Sanders dropped out. I've got something coming up for that later. And, they want to impeach Donald Trump again. This time because he mentioned that other countries were using an antiviral drug to treat a viral infection. Welcome to 2020. You know, there's a funny tweet I want to show you, and then we'll read about Alyssa Milano's stupid tweet and the media's reaction. But take a look at this. I love this. This is a fantastic tweet. David Sutcliffe. Sir, I do not know you, but it's an excellent tweet. He said, remember when everyone knew pro wrestling was fake? And they finally admitted it, and the fans didn't care and continued to watch anyway? We're almost there with politics and the media. Huh. So every day, something comes up where these resistance people are like, we got him! We got him! This is certainly going to bring down the president. It never does, because it's always fake. I feel like the media whips up people like Alyssa Milano into a frenzy over things they know are fake. It's kind of like watching someone dangle keys over a child, you know, and the kid's going like, yay, like, you know, dancing at the keys. You're not going to get the keys. And even if you did, you wouldn't know what to do with them. You have no idea how the keys work. That's what the media does. They dangle keys in front of people like Alyssa Milano. Now, to be fair, I think Alyssa Milano is one of the people who's dangling keys as well. She knows what she's doing. She knows it's not going to happen. But there is some light at the end of the tunnel in that she's telling everyone to give up. Thank you. Please tell them to give up. Throw in the towel if Trump can't be impeached. Well, he can't be because the story's fake. You made it up. And hopefully after this, it's when you do throw in the towel. Man, I'll show you some of the responses to these tweets. And you know, there's some people that I like I'm going to criticize. But let's read the story. It's from Breitbart. Actress and left-wing activist Alyssa Milano floated a New York Times report that suggests the president is promoting hydroxychloroquine as a potential treatment for the coronavirus for financial gain as grounds for impeachment. There was another tweet from somebody. I don't know who it was, so forgive me for not crediting you. But they said, Trump stands to gain in the area of 4 figures over his investment in a mutual fund, which holds a stake in, what is it called, like Sanofi or something. He stands to make millions, potentially tens of millions, if the stock market recovers, if people get better. You see how this works? What's Trump's true incentive here? The fact that one of his mutual funds, he's got like maybe $99 to maybe $1,500 invested indirectly in a company that doesn't even list hydroxychloroquine as one of its principal, products, as one of its medicines. He could make a couple grand if the company does well. Or how about all of his stocks and all of his mutual funds skyrocketing if people survive? I think I know where the president's financial incentive is. Look, I think the president's trying to deal with this to the best of his ability. I'm not saying he's the best at it, but I think what these people are saying is absolutely psychotic. But I think it's fair to say, even if you thought Trump's motivation was purely cash, the cash incentive is in fixing the economy and getting us through this storm. Then Trump's going to make way more money. Quote, here we go. Here's Alyssa Milano. Everybody loves Alyssa Milano. Trump can make history as the first president to be impeached twice. I mean, if putting lives in danger by pushing a drug for personal gain during a pandemic isn't impeachable, we should just throw in the towel. Thank you. Oh, she doesn't realize what she's saying. You know, she thinks she's saying, certainly we got him this time. Everybody come out. This is it at every turn, every week, every month. You ever see that video compilation where it's like bombshell report, Trump, the walls are closing in. This is the beginning of the end for Trump. It's frustrating, but also kind of cathartic to watch that because they just say it every single time. But Alyssa Milano doesn't realize what she's just said. She said, if you can't impeach Trump for this, we should throw in the towel. Okay, excellent. So when this fizzles out and you can't impeach him over it, take her advice, please, and throw in the towel and stop. Bernie Sanders dropped out. So now I'll throw it to Scott Adams, who said Trump is officially running unopposed, which I think is hilarious. But I'll do the Bernie Sanders. I've got a bunch of stuff for the Bernie Sanders segment coming up later. Let's read about this. Milano's declaration follows a Times report on the general divide over the effectiveness of the anti-malaria medicine, hydroxychloroquine, in treating coronavirus patients. President Trump has touted the treatment, which the Times admitted had not been totally unwarranted. Mr. Trump may ultimately be right, and physicians report anecdotal evidence that has provided hope, the Times wrote, before subtly suggesting the president may have ulterior motives. If hydroxychloroquine becomes an accepted treatment, several pharmaceutical companies stand to profit, including shareholders and senior executives with connections to the president. The Times piece states, adding that Trump has a small personal financial interest in Sanofi, the French drug maker that makes Plaquenil, the brand name version of hydroxychloroquine. However, an analysis from MarketWatch found that Trump's stake could be as little as $99, which we read the other day. And why didn't the New York Times say this? The New York Times knew the information they were omitting. It's a lie by omission. So what the New York Times has done, shame on them, by the way, is whipped everyone up into a frenzy. Like I said, dangling keys over the little resistance people going, yeah, the keys. And then now you've got one of the little toddlers telling all the other ones, once we get those keys, then we're going to, drive the truck to the moon. And you're like, that's not a thing that's possible. You cannot impeach the president for this. You have no idea what those keys are for, what they do. And not only that, they could be house keys. They probably are. Here's the quote. They say the report doesn't say how small, but it notes that his three family trusts have investments in Dodge and Cox mutual funds. They mention that the holdings of Sanofi is 3.3%. That is, they say it's the largest. That's what the New York Times is like. It's the largest, their largest holding. It's like 3%, dude. Yeah, you make it seem like they've got 90%. MarketWatch also noted Trump has a small stake in basically every big company you can think of. Breitbart's John Carney also rated the Huffington Post headline, Donald Trump has stake in hydroxychloroquine drug maker report, as false in a fact check published on Tuesday. Carney explains. The report cited by the Huffington Post is from a New York Times story that said Trump himself has a small personal financial interest in Sanofi. Trump's personal financial interest, however, does not include a stake in Sanofi, and the New York Times did not claim it did. Instead, Trump's financial disclosures showed that his three family trusts each had investments in a $10.3 billion Dodge and Cox mutual fund that owns shares in Sanofi, the world's fifth largest drug maker by prescription sales. As of its latest disclosures, those holdings amount to just 3.3%. Trump's most recent financial disclosure forms list holdings from the Dodge and Cox International Fund valued between $1,000 and $15,000. So we know all this stuff. Another analysis conducted by documentary filmmaker and journalist Mike Cernovich also points to the Times' flawed and misleading reporting. According to Trump's financial disclosure, he owns between $1,000 and $15,000 of Dodge and Cox fund and has 2.9% of its money in Sanofi. So these are different numbers coming from Trump. But Cernovich says that he owns between $29 and $435. Cernovich has been right about many big breaking stories, so we'll see how these things play out. Here's a quote. I'm trying to save lives, Trump told CNN's Jeremy Diamond on Sunday when grilled on hydroxychloroquine. If it doesn't work, it's nothing lost by doing it. Nothing, he added. While doctors stress that long-term studies are needed, we know all this stuff. We will move on from here. Let me show you this tweet. Lee, I love you, buddy, but you are wrong about this. Lee Camp is a progressive personality comedian, and I think he's generally a good dude. And I'm just going to say, I think he got duped by fake news. He tweeted, remember when Trump told the country hydroxychloroquine might be able to treat coronavirus? Turns out Trump is invested in the company that makes it. That is 100% not true. Trump is not invested in the company that makes it. He holds no stock of this company. A mutual fund is different from holding stock in the company. You can argue technicalities, but Trump personally has no stock as far as these stories are concerned. He is using his position to boost his stocks, which is supposedly illegal. Now, this breaks my heart. Lee, they got you with the fake news. You got to look into this stuff, man, because here's what we end up seeing. So I responded. He has holdings in mutual funds that hold stocks in companies that, produces the brand name version between $99 and $1,500. Here's someone responded, math is so hard for some folks. The money he will make off that stock is so small. Most of our multi-millionaire Congress wouldn't stop their cars to get out and pick it up if they saw it lying in the street. Some people then point out Rudy Giuliani bought shares in Novartis. These are major companies, okay? Someone buying stock in one of the biggest pharmaceuticals in the world is not evidence of wrongdoing. Many people who hold stock and who buy stock have stock in large companies. Now, what would be really damning is if the president personally instructed his staff or whatever to buy some fringe small company. Let's just make up a company. We'll call it a Flourbomed. Let's say Trump was like, here's a brand new company that's manufacturing a drug called, Florbatine. And then he started touting the benefits of this drug that no one's ever heard of from a company he just bought. Yeah, that would be damning. This is not that. These are major corporations like Donald Trump Donald Trump owns a stake in Microsoft. So now Bill Gates leading the effort of the vaccine. It's because Donald Trump owns a stake in Microsoft. How come they don't report that? Same thing. The New York Times could have said, Bill Gates has been has been pledging money to help find a vaccine. And we're wondering why he's fighting so hard and why Trump would be so adamant about saving lives with the vaccine. It turns out Donald Trump owns a small stake of Microsoft himself. And if Bill Gates succeeds, it stands to reason the press attention will be very beneficial to Microsoft, and Donald Trump stands to make a substantial sum of money. That's ridiculous. You can make a circuitous, nonsensical statement any direction you want. But you want to see how the media loves going after this stuff? First, I bring you the Grand Politico article. Trump is an authoritarian weak man. That's right. Trump certainly is an authoritarian, but he's weak. He can't get the job done, Politico says. Coronavirus would be the perfect opportunity for an autocrat. Trump isn't taking it. Wouldn't that mean he's not an authoritarian? Maybe I should calm down, Politico. Here's what they write. Let's take inventory of what new insights we have learned from the pandemic about President Donald Trump and his leadership character. One could hardly miss how this crisis has fortified one of the two primary pillars of the anti-Trump argument, as advanced by his most ardent detractors. It has been insufficiently noted, however, the degree to which the coronavirus response has weakened the other pillar. The first pillar is that Trump, in the near unanimous view of the opposition, is a terrible person whose terribleness finds expression in terrible policies. He is narcissistic, dismissive of unwelcoming facts, willing to traffic in falsehoods, lacking empathy, erratic in personal matter, and above all, impulsive in judgment. I mean, I actually agree with those to varying degrees. I mean, I think Trump has some terrible policies, but they don't want to give him credit for the policies that have worked out. I mean, the economy was doing really well up until the coronavirus. He's definitely narcissistic. He's definitely dismissive of unwelcome facts. But I think the real issue is the degree to which people are willing to accept how severe these issues are. I think when I was watching a clip that was taken out of context, Trump was talking about mail-in voting. And then the reporter's like, you voted by mail. And he's like, right, because I was out of state. So I did the certification process and got everything sealed. And we voted because I was out of state. There's a difference between that and doing all mail-in voting where people can be sitting in the living room and just rubber stamping, and filling out all these ballots. Well, the media cuts that out of context. That's the issue. So when they say he's dismissive of unwelcoming facts, I'm not sure I trust, for the most part, how the media frames things. Trafficking in falsehoods, yeah, to a certain degree, absolutely. But come on. Obama did, Bush did. This is the thing for me. They're like, Tim, why don't you complain about Trump lying all the time? Oh, Trump certainly lies. He's also unbearably honest about weird things. It's like he says the quiet part loud and the loud part quiet. But is he worse than any other politician who's lied nonstop? Not that I can tell, and not that I can care. You want me to come out and be all shocked that a politician lied? Oh, spare me. Here we go. Impulsive in judgment. Yeah, okay. Are you following so far? Even a Trump defender could comprehend how Trump's critics would season the performance of the past 2 months. Yeah. The second pillar of the anti-Trump case that has wobbled curiously in recent weeks, this president allegedly is not just a near-term menace, but a long-term one, a leader bent on amassing personal power and undermining constitutional democracy in ways that would last beyond his presidency, which under the worst scenarios, he might even try Vladimir Putin's style to extend illegally if he loses in November. You may have heard me talk about this story before. This is not the story I actually care about. It's the next story I want to show you. I think it's funny that they're actually writing an article saying Trump is too weak to be the autocrat people want him to be. And now we have this from the Huffington Post. It's time to say it. Trump is handling COVID-19 like a dictator. What? They complained he wouldn't use the Defense Production Act. Now the Huffington Post published an article calling Trump a dictator. You know what, man? There's no cohesive plan. None of these people have any idea what's going on. And I'll tell you what's really happening. I and my friends are not staunch Trump supporters. We don't go around with MAGA hats. In fact, we would very much like to not wear them. We don't wave flags. And most of us, we're not interested in even voting for the guy. We'll see how things play out. But we're not insane. So that means when we're looking at reality, we're like, Trump is not that bad. That's about it. I mean, you got to compare him to all these other presidents. You can talk about the individual, the individual policies that he's put in place, the job he's done. We had a great economy. And for a lot of people, that's the most, important part. You got domestic policy, which tended to work out fairly well. When it comes to environmental policy, Trump has been pretty bad. So if you're an environmentalist and you care about this stuff, Trump has pulled back a bunch of regulations and things like that. I haven't pulled up, so forgive me if I'm flubbing some details. But he's not been very good. And I know a lot of people who are upset about that. And I think that's fair. You can disagree with the guy on policy, but like calling him a dictator, come on, man. His foreign policy stuff I think is bad, but Obama's was nightmarishly bad. So I'm looking at a guy and I'm like, whatever. Here's the point I'm trying to make. When you live in reality and you actually know what's happening around you, then you're going to look at the president and be like, I'd like to vote for somebody else. Maybe I won't vote, or maybe you like the president. Maybe you agree. But we have to agree on objective reality. These people don't believe in objective reality. Case in point, 2 articles, one saying Trump isn't an autocrat, he's too weak, and one saying he is a dictator. And every other instance where a Democrat has demanded Trump invoke federal wartime authority to force companies to mass produce products he wants. So they say, you should go tell these companies they must produce masks. And Trump is like, well, I don't need to force them to do it. They're doing it. Many are volunteering. And they're like, no, you must force them. And Trump says no. So now they're saying he's a dictator. Here we go. Look at this. President Donald Trump is handling the coronavirus more like the world's authoritarian rulers than its democratically elected leaders. Which is it, media? I get it. They're not the same people. Politico and Huffington Post are not the same outlet. But the reason I'm showing you this is because if you're skeptical of media, you'll be dismissive of both of these articles. But if you're someone who just blindly trusts the media, which the left tends to do, then you're going to be like, Trump is simultaneously a weak, pathetic, non-authoritarian and a dictator at the exact same time, which I can only imagine makes your brain go because it can't compute both. Not only that, there are going to be people who only see one or the other story. And you're going to get a bunch of people saying Trump is not strong enough to do this. He's a weak man. And then they're going to come across somebody being like, no, he's not. He's a dictator. No, he's a weak man. You're a Trump supporter. No, you're a Trump supporter. And they're both going to accuse each other of being Trump supporters and then whatever. They'll get into a fight. But this is what the media has been doing for the longest time. Nothing is cohesive. And so as I mentioned, you've got people typically on the left who blindly trust mainstream news. How can you live in a world where everything contradicts itself? It makes no sense, right? In February, the Washington Post and USA Today and BuzzFeed all said that COVID was not a big deal. The flu was worse. Then 2 or 3 weeks later, they're all saying Trump is wrong. It's not the flu. It's coronavirus is way worse. How do you live in that reality where you read the news one day, read the news the next day, and they contradict each other, and you're like, this makes sense to me. At a certain point, you have to be like, this is nonsensical garbage that I can't read. How do you read? Like you got 2 articles. One says 1 + 1 is 3. The other says 1 + 1 is 4. And you're like, both must be true. Well, neither are true. So then you end up with people who are conservative. And I think there's an interesting correlation causation thing going on with these polls. Why is it that conservatives are less likely to trust the media? Could it be that if somebody is trusting of the media, they tend to hold liberal views because they just believe whatever the media says? Could it be that someone who is liberal, who starts distrusting the media because they see the holes, then looks for alternative sources, and it turns out those alternative sources tend to be conservative? You'll end up with then people, I know a ton of people who used to be very lefty who are now conservative, and they read mostly conservative news because they just don't trust mainstream press. Look, I just showed you 2 articles that contradict each other. They don't make any sense. So what are you going to read? You've got to read something that's cohesive and makes sense. Something with an editorial statement or stand or position. So when you look at conservative media, they're certainly conservative. Many of them are very biased for conservative causes, but they tend to be correcting the press all the time. They would call me conservative for the same reason. But it's just that I live in reality. I've been saying for months, Trump is winning, Trump's polls are up. And guess what? When I did a video saying Donald Trump's approval rating is higher than it's ever been, what happens next? A month later, it's even higher. His fundraising is going up. He's making more money. His approval rating, it's going up. So when I say I see this, it's significant, I was right. It's not because I like him or want to vote for him. It's because I'm telling you what's literally happening. When the coronavirus pandemic breaks out, what does Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff want to do? Oversight committees, investigations. Chuck Schumer, and I gave him credit for this, said we need a czar to handle oversee distribution. And that's at least something related to coronavirus. And like I said, I respect him for trying to do something. Just don't think we need it because we have Rear Admiral Palauchik who's in charge of everything. But you got to give him credit for at least trying something, I suppose. You still have a bunch of Democrats who are pushing nonsense. So if you come to my content, for one, yes, I'm biased. I think these people are insane. The media is insane. So definitely I'm going to miss things, not trust things, and I will be biased. But can you blame me? Just because I don't trust Politico or the Huffington Post to certain degrees doesn't mean I support conservative political positions. I'm saying that you lie so much, I have no idea who to believe. But let's throw it back right to the beginning to good old Alyssa Milano, who has no idea what's really happening in this world. And she thinks Trump literally did this. And so does Lee. Now, Alyssa Milano is a hypocrite. She says, oh, we have to believe women, except Joe Biden. He's innocent. He's a nice guy. She preaches all day and night. You know, with Brett Kavanaugh, it's like, oh, it's not about due process because Brett Kavanaugh is just being job interviewed. He's not going to prison. Now with Joe Biden, he's being job interviewed and they don't want to actually hold him accountable for the accusations against him. It's just complete BS. To Lee's credit, I think Lee is a good dude. I've known him for a while. He's a good dude. He just got roped in by the fake news, and that bums me out. So I sent him a message. I think he's well intentioned, and I don't believe him to be a hypocrite like Alyssa Milano is. He's a legit dude. It bums me out to see them being tricked by the press into believing this fake trash. You know, I go through this stuff every day. It's funny when people say, yeah, they accuse me of not doing journalism. It's like, okay, I'll tell you what, buddy. If you read the New York Times and believe everything they say because they're journalists, you've just bought into fake news. When I take that story, look up other information and verify and fact check, still not perfect. I still miss a ton of things. But it's another layer upon me doing research and trying to fact check these sources. Sorry, I'm doing journalism. But you don't like it because I just discredited your stupid fake news that you're trying to use to impeach the president. I'm talking about Alyssa Milano. She's a hypocrite. And I will say there's one thing that does make me feel good. Aside from the fact she's telling everyone to throw in the towel. I like that. Please do. Every side of the culture war hates her guts right now because of the Joe Biden thing. You got the progressive left and the right all telling her to STFU. Feels good. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. at youtube.com/Timcast. It is a different channel. Many people have asked me about this. It's youtube.com/Timcast. Just go check it out. I will see you all there at 4 p.m.